December 2025. As Canadian snowbirds traditionally complete their migration south, Florida faces something unprecedented. Empty condos, vacant rentals, half-filled restaurants during peak season. 11 months into 2025, the data is brutal. Canadian visits down 20 to 30% across Florida's key markets. Collier County down 23% in February. Pinellas County vacation rentals plummeted 30%. Hotel check-ins down 20%. Real estate agents in Naples and Sarasota report almost no Canadian buyer inquiries this season. This isn't about tourism declining. This is about an economic model fracturing because politicians chose ideology over arithmetic. Canadian snowbirds weren't tourists. They were economic anchors. Average spending, $33,000 per household over 6 months. Groceries, restaurants, golf, medical appointments, property maintenance. Sustained, predictable spending every year. American tourists spend $1,200 per week. Replacing one Canadian household requires 28 American families annually. Florida hosted 500,000 Canadian snowbirds traditionally. Replacing that demands 14 million additional American families. That demand doesn't exist. Here's what makes 2025 different. The collapse is happening, but not uniformly. Property owners still come. Renters don't. That distinction is destroying specific sectors while wounding others. The Travel Health Insurance Association's 2025 survey showed 70% of snowbirds in their community still plan U.S. winters, down from 85% in 2024. That's a 15-point drop. Not total abandonment, but devastating nonetheless. January 2025. Warning signs emerged everywhere. Trump administration announced new entry requirements. Fingerprinting for stays over 30 days. $30 registration fee. Mandatory biometric data collection starting December 26, 2025. Simultaneously, political rhetoric escalated. 51st state comments. Trade war threats. Tariffs. The Canadian dollar weakened from 75 cents to 72 cents US, making everything 4% more expensive overnight. Any rational government watches these indicators and adjusts. Instead, Florida doubled down. Celebrated America First tourism. Downplayed warnings. Governor DeSantis in April called Canadian boycott concerns overblown, noting they were only 2% of visitors. That math was technically correct and strategically disastrous. Canadians were 2.3% of total visitors, but 27% of international visitors. In coastal communities like Hollywood, Dania Beach, Fort Myers, they were 35 to 70% of winter revenue. Data screamed. First quarter, 2025, visits down 17%. Second quarter, down 20%. Industry leaders begged privately for policy adjustments while supporting officials publicly. The collapse hit specific sectors with devastating precision. Real estate took the first hit. Canadian property purchases dropped dramatically. In 2023, 55% of Canadians buying U.S. homes chose Florida. That percentage held, but total volume plummeted. Rental markets imploded. Properties designed for snowbirds sat vacant. Inventory surged. Prices dropped. Areas dependent on rental income suffered most. Restaurants and retail faced devastating losses. Establishments in Canadian-heavy areas reported 50 to 70% revenue declines. A Pinellas County hairdresser who'd served 20 Canadian snowbirds for a decade saw only 3 return. That's 85% loss. Dairy Bell in Dania Beach, where 70% of November to April business comes from Canadians, watched revenue crater. The Atlantic Hotel and Spa reported 5% occupancy drops, forcing management to travel to Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia, desperately seeking replacement business. Medical tourism collapsed. This $1.5 billion annual industry saw 60% patient volume declines. Some clinics faced bankruptcy. While Florida struggled, competitors pounced. Portugal launched campaigns in Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. Canadian bookings to the Algarve coast surged 44%. Real estate inquiries jumped 52%. Winter rentals cost $1,200 monthly, half of Florida fees, with no fingerprinting, no political hostility. Mexico streamlined retiree visas to 30-day approval. Puerto Vallarta and Cancun saw arrivals rise 36%. Medical checkups with dental care cost $95 versus thousands in Florida. Caribbean campaigns emphasized stability and English-speaking services. Barbados alone added 11,000 retirees, contributing $350 million, money that once flowed to Florida. Canadians reallocated over $4.2 billion to alternative destinations in 2025. Decades positioning Florida as default refuge ended. Now competitors use Florida as cautionary tale. And while Florida's economy fractured, politicians maintained denial. By mid-2025, Visit Florida's data was undeniable. First quarter down 17%, second quarter down 20%. Yet officials attributed disruption to global market forces and currency fluctuations. Anything except acknowledging hostile rhetoric drove customers away. Counties relying on Canadian tourism for 30 to 40% of seasonal revenue reported deficits exceeding $450 million. Infrastructure stalled. Bonds faced downgrades. Still, politicians celebrated America First policies. Now in December 2025, as traditional snowbird season peaks, reality sets in. This isn't temporary. Damage is structural. Some Canadians with deep property ties remain. Those owning Fort Myers or Naples homes use them. But broader rental markets, hotel occupancy, restaurant traffic, all down significantly. More critically, trust is shattered. Decades viewing Florida as dependable refuge ended in 2025. Canadians who shifted to Portugal, Mexico, Caribbean, invested in new homes, established new medical relationships, built new routines. They've moved on. New fingerprinting requirements taking effect December 26, 2025, will likely accelerate departures. Even Canadians planning to return may reconsider biometric data collection for what was once seamless crossing. Infrastructure remains stranded. Airports expanded, for snowbirds operate at reduced capacity. Municipalities locked into debt watch revenue evaporate. Medical clinics face permanent underutilization. Outpatient volumes remain down 60%. Contractors specializing in seasonal properties report 70% revenue declines. Seasonal employment supporting 200,000 workers shrank 35%. But this story isn't just Florida's. It's a blueprint for politics colliding with economics. International tourism contributed $213 billion to U.S. GDP in 2024. Canadians accounted for $22 billion. Arizona, Nevada, California, New York all rely on international inflows. If Florida lost 20 to 30% in 1 year, what stops similar losses elsewhere? The precedent is set. Hostile policies equal vanishing revenue. Investors now factor political risk into U.S. tourism economies, something once reserved for unstable nations. So where does this leave Florida in December 2025? Staring at a $2.3 billion revenue shortfall, documented by their own Department of Revenue. Ghost towns where winter wonderlands thrived. Thousands unemployed or underemployed. Collapsing tax bases. While Florida burns, competitors thrive. Portugal welcomes displaced snowbirds. Mexico builds infrastructure. Caribbean emphasizes stability. Every destination learned from Florida's mistakes while benefiting from failures. When you treat visitors with respect, dollars follow. When you treat them with hostility through policies and rhetoric, dollars leave. And in 2025, Florida discovered those dollars don't return simply because you want them back. Florida weaponized economics against itself through political incompetence. The assumption that Canadians needed Florida more than Florida needed Canadian money proved spectacularly wrong. Empty properties, unemployed workers, collapsing revenues document the cost. Snowbirds migrated to destinations offering respect. Money followed their wings. Florida chose ideology over prosperity and achieved neither, leaving ruins where communities flourished. The question for every state: will you learn or follow Florida into disaster? The choice is yours. But Florida already made theirs. And December 2025's empty rentals, quiet restaurants, and desperate hotel managers speak louder than any political rhetoric ever could.